So in today's video, basically, I'm going to be talking about the Inkle Loom, which is what you're seeing here. It comes in different shapes, different sizes. A lot of the, I guess the big thing about buying an Inkle Loom is the size, basically. There are many things that you can actually end up doing with an Inkle Loom. It is a different type of loom compared to the floral loom or the table loom. Okay, so in this kind of situation, you're basically making like a piece of fabric. Whatever the width of your peg happens to be is the maximum that you can do. And again, the more pegs you have or use, the longer that strap can actually end up being. You can make belts, you can make sashes, ties, bookmarks, bracelets, hairbands, guitar straps, dog collars, and shoelaces. So some of these I'm going to be trying actually in the future to see how they work. I took this class with the Inkle Loom a couple of months ago. I thought, you know what, it's been a while, I haven't tried it again. Let's see how much I actually remember. If you've seen other videos, you know my memory's not great, which is why I make these videos primarily for myself, and if you guys enjoy them, that is awesome too. So basically the Inkle Loom has different parts to it, and again, there are different companies that will sell Inkle Looms. You can buy some from Leclerc, for example, which is a Canadian company, Shacked. This one is by Ashford. I bought it secondhand. I think it's a 2016 version of it, I believe. So again, you know, it depends on and the cost will obviously vary based on how long a strap you can actually make. Okay, so let me just change positions here to give you a better idea of the little parts of the actual Inkle Loom, and then we'll continue on. Okay, so this one I got basically secondhand, as I mentioned. It has obviously various pegs. Some of the pegs that you're obviously going to want to keep in mind that will be important for you are, you obviously have your starting peg here. For the Ashford, you've got a tension bar here because, again, as you are slowly rotating basically this strap around, because as you slowly make more strap, you need to kind of advance it so you can continue going. And so this basically, you'll loosen the tension and then you'll retension it so that it's tight. If you are a weaver, a lot of this actually is quite easy to pick up. If you've never woven before and you just want to take up the Inkle Loom, there is a learning curve, just like there would be a learning curve if you decided to go and learn on a floor loom or a table loom. Again, don't let that dissuade you. It is actually a fairly easy thing to pick up. Okay, there are so many pegs. Some of these pegs are literally there for wrapping the string around. So if I wanted to, I could wrap the string, and I'll explain why I've marked these ones on my particular Inkle Loom. Yours will not come marked, obviously. You can put stickers if you'd rather not mark up your wood, but that's up to you. Okay. But what it is basically that you're putting the thread through, and if you're wrapping it through various pegs, it makes the strap obviously longer. So again, if you're a weaver and you understand the term guide thread, basically when you're warping, you're using your warping board, for example, you take sometimes a guide thread because you know you want something to be, 5 yards long, and you don't know which pegs you would use. So let's say, so basically, if you had a guide thread, for example, so you just, you want, let's say your strap to be 3 yards long, you would cut, maybe a piece of wool or something like that, 3 yards long. You would obviously start off by tying it at the starting peg way over here, okay? And then you would wrap it around to find out which pegs would make sense that you would want to actually wrap your thread around. So you'd have a good idea, okay? You can see basically there are 2 pegs that you have to use when you're doing your actual warp. You have to use this peg here, which has the H. You have to use the N. But the rest of these, I could have zigzagged through all the way if I'd wanted to, okay? Now, Ashford does come, at least my loom came with, it came with a little manual, okay? And then it came basically with kind of a help sheet there of what the different parts of the loom were. Okay, so that's definitely helpful as well. So assembly instructions, for example, because again, it comes obviously apart and you want to be able to put it together. My husband put it together and it didn't take him very long to do that. Okay, he enjoys tinkering and putting things and taking things apart. So basically, when you're actually doing it, and I will do another video where I'm actually warping it. The reason I did not actually do the video for this one here was basically I assumed I was going to screw up and I wasn't going to remember much from a couple of months ago, so I didn't want all that on video. There's only, so much, so much foolishness that I want you guys to see. So, I will do my next time when I finish this project, take it off, I will put another one on and I will show you the whole process, at that point. But what it is that you need, obviously, you need threads or yarns, for example. Right now, this is 8-2 cotton that I'm using, okay? I just had some leftover rolls. It didn't take a whole lot, okay? This also came with my loom, okay? So it's a shuttle. One side is very, very narrow, okay? Almost kind of like a blade, but not sharp, of course. And then the other side is not, and of course, you're going to wrap your thread around that, okay? I used a chip clip. I'll show you why I'm using that in a little while. I've got, they're not popsicle sticks, they're smaller than popsicle sticks, basically. They're, I don't know what they are, mixing sticks, craft sticks, whatever they are. And basically when we start off actually doing the actual warp, you use them for a few minutes, basically just to get yourself started. So you want to get, a couple of these. Again, if that forces you to have to buy popsicles to eat, well then, oh, what a horrible thing that will be, right? It also came with this, which allows you to secure it to a table, because the problem is that this, obviously, as you weave, is going to move around. It's pretty slippery. I did put it, actually, this is a gaming mat that I have right here, and I actually find it quite useful. It's a huge gaming mat, because if you've seen my other videos, you know that I have a big K-Lax full of games, and so we play a lot of games in this house. And so you can buy a gaming mat much smaller that would actually fit the size of the Inkle Loom that you could, take with you, if you want to go somewhere and if you have a craft night or, stitch and bitch or something like that with your friends and you want to bring your Inkle Loom, you could actually do that, right? The other option is that, those shelf liners, those kind of rubbery shelf liners, you could buy that and just put it under like the basic, the feet there. You got the 2 sets of feet so that it doesn't move. Okay, that's helpful as well. All right. The other thing that I found useful, you're going to need some sort of way to figure out your strap. Is it maintaining the width that you want it to maintain? Okay. I've got, I think this is called a sliding gauge for sewing, basically, and so I'm not going to touch it because it has my exact amount of the width of the thing, but you can, obviously put it to whatever width it is that you want for your strap, and then you just kind of check it regularly as you go along to make sure that it's not going all wonky, okay? Again, you should be able to see that with your own eyes, but, before it starts to get really obvious, you want to be able to pick up on it and find out, am I pulling things too tight? Am I not pulling things tight enough? Okay? So, basically, I'm going to show you, this is what I did on my actual course, which was much more complex than I thought it would be. So, basically, all right, now I didn't finish the ends here because I ran out of time with my course, but basically, we were asked to pick up, some threads that we wanted, to, thread at the width that we wanted, and of course I had no idea what I was doing, but I figured, okay, stripes will be nice and simplistic to do. I could finish these off as a fringe, which I never got around to actually doing. But the really cool thing about this is that we ended up making, at the top here, you can see that there's holes, so you can learn how to make slits, okay, in the actual strap that you're making that you can insert, for example, like in this case, a cord, okay? And what the idea for this was, my teacher, rather ingenious, is that basically she picked up these little snippers, I guess you could say, which are great for cutting threads, and then we kind of attached it, with the cord, okay? And basically the strap that I made, we basically just folded it in half. These slits basically were in the middle of my actual strap, okay? Now I've got to find something to keep this closed and more safe than just open like that. But basically it's really cool because it's meant that you wear this around your neck, and as I'm doing whatever I'm doing, weaving or whatever, and I need my little scissors, I pull it out, I snip, and then they go back in. I just have to make sure I find a way to, as I said, not to stab myself with the actual scissors. But I thought it was pretty cool. There's lots of different things. It's not, I don't know if I would say it's more or less versatile than your other type of loom. It just makes different things. It depends. When you get into weaving, you have to decide what is it that you want to weave, right? And I remember being asked that, and I'm having like no idea what you could weave in the first place. And so I obviously started off with a floor loom. Love my floor loom. Decided to go with a table loom because it had more harnesses, and it was cheaper to buy a table loom with more harnesses than a floor loom with more harnesses. And then thought the Inkle Loom looked really cool. I wanted to try that. I've got a tapestry loom that I'm waiting to take some classes on. So you will notice if you get into weaving and you love it, you know, these looms start to multiply like fungus a little bit. So be careful of that. I promised myself I wouldn't do it, and then guess what? I've got, you know, 4 looms in the last 3 years. So I try and, you know, justify it because they're all totally different looms, right? So that makes it okay. But I guess I'm early in my career of weaving. That could go wrong very fast. Okay. So let me reorient the camera, and we're going to take a look at the strap that I'm doing right now. I can, actually, you know what, before I do that, let me actually show you what you're doing. So when you do actually warp, and I will show you a proper video, as I said, is that you're going to take one strand, it's going to go over this peg here, which is the heddle peg, okay? These here are the heddles. So if you actually use a proper floor or table loom, usually your heddles are metal. They might be made of Texcloth, for example, because they hold on to the thread. That's what the thread basically goes through. So and I'll show you how to make these as well, okay? The second thread will go to this bar here, and is the unheddled peg, okay? And then the rest of it follows the same path for both threads, okay? And then of course you tie it off at the front bar there, okay? So let me reorient the camera. You can take a look very quickly at what I am doing. I could show you a few pics basically of how easy it is to do, and then as I slowly finish, I'm basically doing various little projects. I'm thinking I'd like to maybe do a keychain fob, you know, like for a wristlet, for example, a bookmark. I'd like to try that out with a proper fringe this time. Just different little things with this particular one. It was more for practice, you know, because I expected to make a bunch of mistakes, but, you know, it seems to be going quite well so far. All right. Okay, so from the beginning here, you can actually see, okay, the strap that I'm doing. All right. You will notice that whenever you actually end up doing a strap, basically, you'll notice that your stripes are not perfectly straight. And the reason for that is that basically you've got one thread here, the next thread is on either side. And then below that, below those 2 threads, you have one in between. So it's just slightly kind of wobbly, okay? It still has a nice pattern to it, okay? So what you end up doing is that actually from the side, let me raise this because I forgot to show you this, is that you have to make your shed. Okay? And so what this happens here is that between the heddle and the unheddled, you're able to actually make a shed, which is the area that this particular shuttle is going to go through. Okay? So if I push down on this, you will notice that this opens up nicely. I can put the shuttle through. If I put it upwards, okay, I make a hole here and I can put the shuttle through. All right? Now you'll notice that I have gone about halfway up. And the further you go up, the smaller that shed is going to be and the harder to put that shuttle through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to advance this warp just a little bit, okay? So I'm going to look at my tension. I'm going to undo it, just untwist it. It's going to loosen just a little bit, okay? So now it's kind of a little bit flimsy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the bottom and the top, and I'm just going to advance it just a little bit here. Just keep doing that, okay? There we go. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to pull on it. I'm going to have to use my body as leverage here. And then I turn it, hopefully the right way, and I resecure it. Okay? And so when I resecure it, it should be taut again. Okay? Now sometimes when you advance it, these heddles will come forward. Again, you just put them all back. You want to make sure that all these heddles are obviously in line with each other, otherwise you're going to have problems. Okay? Okay. So let's push this down. I'm going to do this, okay? You're going to put the shuttle through. You want to push against, okay? Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to push, you put this thread through before, you want to push against it, okay? And so basically I'm going to come through. Now what happens is that when you're actually bringing it through, because I don't know if I brought it through, there we go, that's better, okay? So we're going to bring it through. As we bring it through, I'm going to hold on to this, okay? And I'm going to basically try and bring it as close to the bottom as I can. I'm going to pull on it, okay? Obviously, at some point, I have to let it go. I want it to come together right here where the black is. I don't want it being cinched in where it looks like it's kind of doing, you know, a divot that way, and I don't want to loop on the ends. So I'm just going to keep pulling it. Sorry. All right. Usually I hold on to this, but I don't think you can see it. Okay? There we go. And so basically there's no loop and there's also no pulling in, okay? Now basically I'm going to now lift the shed in the opposite direction. That's backwards for me because I don't tend to do it from this side. I tend to be right-handed. Okay, I'm not going to be able to do it. There we go, okay? And so as I go through, I'm going to take my shuttle. I'm going to go through. I'm going to push it down so that that thread, as I put across, is now going across straight, okay? And then I'm going to pull my thread through. I'm going to just basically bring the thread down to the bottom, slowly pull it, not necessarily pulling it downwards, I'm just kind of pulling it across. And then again, I don't want this loop. I want to make sure that it is cinched in like that. Now again, if I start pulling too tight, and then that is a possibility because again, I'm new at this, okay? So what I have is I have my little guide here that how wide do I want this to be, okay? And so if I'm looking at it right now, I'm fine, okay? Earlier, I was a lot wider at the beginning, actually, and then basically I started to get a little narrow, and so you'll notice at the beginning of any warp, you're a little bit wonky because you're trying to get your tension, okay? But again, as long as you've got your guide, once you've gotten started, because the beginning part, you'll lose a little bit of the beginning part, don't panic about that. You know, as you keep going, it should not be difficult to be able to grasp this, okay? So let's do it again. I'm going to put that here. Okay, I'm going to bring this down, bring it across. And again, if you forget which side you're actually bringing it across, it's just literally going to undo the thread if you haven't actually done the pushing down of it. Okay, so again, it's not the end of the world. You'll just have to do it again properly. Okay, so then I do this. I make sure to cinch it. Okay, so that it matches here. There's no loop. It is kind of, I won't say ragged. It's bumpy. Okay, with this. And usually what ends up happening is that the warp that you're using, okay, so that's the thread that's going across, is basically the same color as your selvage. So in this case, my selvage on the edges is black, so I'm using a warp that's black. If I were to use, for example, and I will try that at some point on this, a warp that's rusty colored, well, every time that this goes across, it makes a little loop. There are little tiny bumps along the way. I'm doubting it. You can actually see it on the camera, okay? But basically, every time I have that, you'll have like a little flick every, few millimeters that would be rust. Okay, so it depends on what look you're trying to go for. All right. Now, let's say, for example, I'm done. Okay, and I decide, all right, I want to go and travel. Let's say, for example, to my guild or whatever, a friend's house. All right, this is a trick that I was shown. I thought it was kind of cool. Okay, so basically, you do this. All right. Now, again, my chip clip is pretty tight, pretty big. You don't need one that big. And everything is basically secure. I can now move around with this and not worry about this falling out and causing other issues and to be able to travel with it. Okay? Okay. So I hope that basically that helps as a beginning, introduction to the Inkle Loom. I'm going to be doing a video on some of the books and reading the draft for an Inkle Loom because it is slightly different than reading a draft for the floor loom. Okay? So have yourself a great day and see you soon.